right? Okay. We are now streaming live on Facebook. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Brace Yourself. I am your host, Rosanne Sorrentino, with my co-host, Chris Grando.
Hey,
and this is a good one today, Chris.
Yes, this is amazingly exciting. This is, this is big time. Like, you've gone big time here.
I did. I've gone big time now. This is
a distinguished celebrity. It's very exciting. I think I'm a little out of my league here for the interview, but I'm okay.
Come on. So our guest today is Bill Berloni. I say renowned animal trainer, or trained the original Sandy and Annie, and we're going to talk to him about all things Sandy and animals and experiences that he's had. And I haven't seen him in years, so I'm really excited to bring him on. So I think we're just going to get going.
Yeah.
I don't keep him in the waiting room.
Keep them waiting? Why keep the people waiting?
We don't want to keep the people waiting.
No, this is going to be good.
We're going to get going. And here we go.
Okay, let's do it.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, here's Bill Berloni. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Rosanne.
How are you? Welcome to Brace Yourself.
Oh, I've always braced myself around you.
And so it begins.
Yes. You and everyone else, Bill.
So, first things first, how are you holding up with everything that's going on?
Don't you think you should introduce me to your co-host?
Oh, you're right. I did that before off camera, and I forgot.
Oh, okay. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hi, Bill. How are you?
Good, good.
Excellent.
I don't want her to dominate the whole thing like she usually does.
Listen, I'm going to step on her 100 times and just trying to get my questions in anyway. I have a million things I need to ask you as well.
Chris does amazing research. So, so how are you, first of all, with everything that's going on?
We're very fortunate. All my family is fine. We're all healthy, and we're sheltered in place.
Okay. And you live on a farm with all of your animals, right? The retirement community?
Well, it's more of a home for working actors, wannabe actors and retired actors, but canine actors.
So. Right. So we're going to talk all about that. And I'm just sort of, John Bolton is watching. Hey, John Bolton. You know John Bolton.
I do.
Yes. John Bolton, he was in A Christmas Story, and you had the bloodhounds in that.
Yes, I did. Yes. And he's a wonderful guy. We love him dearly.
Yeah, he's pretty great. So I want to talk to you first, Bill, because I know you are a behavior consultant to the Humane Society of New York, and I know that's something that's very near and dear to you.
Yep.
So what do you do for them in a nutshell?
Well, I'm a behavior consultant. Over the years, about 20 years now, I've gone in and helped them evaluate dogs coming in for behavioral problems, set up training programs to help resolve them, and then ultimately help them find that right home.
That's great. And I understand you're very successful at finding all of those animals' homes. You have a good success rate?
Well, it's all about good casting, So I was really good at that. So I just apply it to finding the right home for dogs.
Well, good for you. That's great. We have a lot of dogs that need to be rescued. So it's good that, I would definitely go to the Humane Society if I knew you had a hand in dealing with that dog for sure. So I know you talk about this all the time, but for people who don't know or who have never heard before, most people know who Sandy is. Mm-hmm. And how he kind of came to be, which is a great story. And you were an aspiring actor at the time, not a dog trainer.
Correct.
So can you just tell a little bit about that? And I'm curious as to know, when did you know that experience was going to change your life?
Well, I grew up on a farm here in central Connecticut, and halfway through high school, I discovered theater and decided I wanted to pursue that as a career as an actor. So when I graduated high school, instead of spending my summers, hanging out with my friends, I wanted to learn as much about theater as I could. So I applied at a theater here in Connecticut called the Goodspeed Opera House. It's a renowned regional theater that's dedicated to the American musical, and they do revivals and new musicals. And so I got the opportunity to be a technical apprentice, which meant I worked 70 hours a week for no money, but hanging out around professionals. So my first summer out of high school was one of the best summers of my life. I got to be in the place that I wanted to go. And then they asked me back the next summer, in the summer of 1976. And the new show they were doing was a musical about Little Orphan Annie. And after they had announced it, somewhere along the line, they realized there was a live dog in the script. And so they called New York for dog trainers. They were way too expensive. The producer, Michael Price, talked to the paid staff, the carpenters, the prop people. They all threatened to quit if they had to do that job. So he needed basically someone he could talk into it, or a sucker. And I was the kid that was called to the office. He sat me down, complimented my work, and offered me my equity card and a chance to be in one of the shows at the Goodspeed Opera House. And I thought he was a brilliant man. He had recognized my acting ability. By the way, I'd been moving scenery for 2 years. I said, I would love that. And he said, all you have to do is find and train the dog for the new show for no money. I'm like, okay, no problem. I mean, I made the deal with the devil without thinking about what I had said. And it took me a week to realize what I had agreed to. And the fun fact is, he gave me $35 to buy the dog and feed it all summer. So someone said they had cheap dogs at the animal shelter. I had grown up on a farm. I had a collie when I was younger, and when he passed away, we went to the pet shop and we bought a beagle. So the day I went looking for Sandy, I had never been to an animal shelter, and I was profoundly moved. I never knew animals were kept in situations like that. And I ended up, the last shelter I went to was the Connecticut Humane Society. And Sandy, I found him there. He looked like the part, but he had been abused and he was frightened and shaking. And when I questioned the people there, they said, do you want to adopt him? Because he's going to be put to sleep tomorrow. And I said, what? Because as a 19-year-old, I didn't know that dogs were euthanized, that they had expiration dates. And I reached into my pocket, I only had $3 and the adoption fee was $7. So they kicked me out, ran back to the opera house, told everybody, I showed pictures, the director was out of town, the producer was out of town, nobody would okay this dog. And I went to bed that night very upset and complaining all night. And finally my roommate said, here's the $4, go back tomorrow and adopt him before they open up, which is what I did. So that's how I acquired the original Sandy. Now, there were no books on dog training. I didn't, and all my dogs followed me around, no leashes, no collars, because they loved me. So I thought, if I can make Sandy think the theater was his home, as I did, and the stage was filled with his friends, why wouldn't he want to go out there and be with them? Which was what I ended up doing. The good news is, the first person I had to train was a child. And so working with kids, you put a kid and a dog together and what happens? Magic. Mm-hmm. They just figure it out themselves. Right. And so, Sandy fell in love with our first Annie, Kristen Vigard. Yep. And she was replaced halfway through the run with Andrea McArdle. And Sandy, had become friendly with them. They loved him. And every night he would walk out to them center stage. And I had fulfilled my end of the bargain. The original production of Annie got terrible reviews. I was going to NYU. I was going to study musical theater. Moved to Greenwich Village with Sandy, a 5th floor walk-up with 2 other roommates. And after my first semester, the show called. Annie was being produced by Broadway, and the director, Martin Charnin, wanted me to participate again. And I thought, NYU is pretty expensive. I think I'll take a semester off and make some money. So we went to Washington, D.C. Sandy and Andrea McArdle were reunited again. And, on April 21st, 1977, Annie opened and became this international smash. And I became a world famous animal trainer at the age of 20. So that's how it all happened. It was all whirlwind. But in the back of my head, I thought, I'm still going to be an actor. So I was running the show at night. I was taking dance classes with Peter Gennaro, our choreographer. I was taking singing lessons. And within the first year, I got asked to do another Broadway play, a revival of Camelot with Richard Burton. And I thought, any way to be in a room with Richard Burton, I'm there. And then we were asked to train the dogs for the tours, the national companies. And by my 5th production, I realized I was much more talented as an animal trainer than as an actor, because it was very easy for me to look around at the chorus boys and go, I'm not that good. So I was spared all that rejection, and because I had been given this wonderful gift with the ability to train animals.
And it's always amazing to watch you with the animals. And I remember when I met you the first time, you were like, okay, well, first I have to train you.
Mm-hmm.
And what? What does that even mean? Yeah. But that was exactly what you did, you know?
Taught you how to speak dog.
No, yeah, me and Moose, that dog, I love that dog. I still think about him. Mm-hmm. You know, I see the pictures that I have sometimes. So that is just such a cool story. And Annie just sort of took you on this great journey, mm-hmm. Where I'm doing all of this research about all the things that you've done. And you train all sorts of animals now. Mm-hmm. Not just dogs and cats, bunnies, farm animals. But what really caught my attention was insects. Mm-hmm. How do you train an insect, Bill?
Well, one of the things I learned was that I was good with dogs, and that one of the biggest forms of cruelty is ignorance. And, you know, as I started getting work for all types of animals, I realized that I couldn't learn fast enough to take care of the animals well. So what I did was I started hiring experts in the field of, well, in the case of insects, herpetology, insects and reptiles. Have this wonderful man, you know, he comes in with the animals. I tell him what to do because I understand the business, and then we split the fee. So whether it's horse experts or cow experts or sheep experts or bug experts, you know, I bring in people who actually know how to treat them humanely, and then I teach them how to get the shot or get the show.
Which is very interesting because you and I spoke on the phone. And Chris, please jump in. I don't want to be dominating anything, but
I've got a couple of questions I want to ask him about. All right, so you had it was easy with Sandy because you were a child, and you said it was magic. How does Richard Burton react? How do you train a seasoned actor or anybody like that to interact with the dog? Do they have to be animal lovers? Do you run into actors that are not animal lovers? How do you figure that out?
Well, that was a huge problem because, again, I had worked with a lot of kids who made it very easy for me. And when I started working with adults and I said to them, get down on the floor and play with the dog, they were like, what are you talking about? And because I had to explain to them, we had to create a bond. And if you're not an animal lover, you can't work with an animal because they know. Imagine working with someone who doesn't want to be next to you or doesn't like you. I mean, in the case of the dogs or the cats, they just walk away. Why should they stay there if someone isn't interested in them? So I've dealt with a lot of big egos. And then again, you meet people like John Bolton, who played the old man in A Christmas Story on Broadway, I had worked with him on Annie. All goes back to Annie. And he was an animal lover. And the first thing he did when he saw these big slobbery bloodhounds was fall on the ground, you know, and let them jump on him. I mean, so having actors, and I tell this to directors, I tell this to casting directors, you know, if you provide me with an actor who isn't into the animals, then you're not going to get the required response you want.
That's so true. I mean, you know, even animals, when you go into someone's house and you know, people come in and they say, oh, I don't like dogs. And then the dogs immediately react to that, you know? So, but you've had such a tremendous, I have so many questions written down, so many things I want to talk to you about, and I'm getting all a little nervous, Bill, a little nervous.
Why?
I don't know, because I really do appreciate that you took the time out. I know everybody's in quarantine, but still, I really do appreciate it. And your reality show, Wags to Riches, which I loved, watched every episode.
Yep.
What was that like?
Well, Discovery created a new channel called Discovery Family, and they were looking for content. And when I was approached to do the reality show, I said, that's great. And the crazy thing is, it was a huge honor, because when you think of all the other animal trainers in the past, Lassie's owner or Benji's owner, did you ever see the inside of their homes or where they worked? And I could only imagine that there was stuff they didn't want to show. And we invite the press here all the time because we have nothing to hide. So to be chosen because we were good role models in terms of animal training and rescue, and my whole family, that was the whole point. It's not just me, it's my wife, my daughter, was a big honor. And the ability to work at home was fantastic. It was just, didn't have to go on the road for a while.
Did your family like it, the experience of it?
It was a pain in the butt a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are they always there? When do they start? Is it like first thing in the morning till, or do you have any downtime without?
We had, we were also executive producers, so we sort of set the schedule so that we can handle things. And, the reality show guys were experienced, and they said, we usually start the day off by giving the talent, a case of vodka, and then we start rolling. But this was a family show, so we had to invent activities that were family friendly. So that got a little tiring. After the first episode, we were like, well, this is our life. And they were like, well, we got to do more fun stuff. We have to have contests, and you have to find ducks in the bathtub. And it just got kind of crazy. So yeah. And in fact, this is a reality show shirt, the wardrobe you wear, the makeup you have, all that sort of stuff. In addition, keeping 40 animals quiet while you're trying to shoot. We figured that out. So it was very labor intensive, but I think worthwhile in terms of what the audience did see.
I think it's great because, definitely what you said about treating the animals well. We don't really know how animals are treated when we see them. And I know that there was some controversy with some movies about the way the animals are treated. I mean, I used to travel sometimes with the dogs in the motorhome from city to city, as opposed to going on the plane or on the bus with the rest of the cast, because I just, loved being with the dogs. And then I got to do the film and was really disappointed and just absolutely shocked that you were not the animal trainer for that film, for Annie.
There's a good story behind that.
Now we're talking.
We're talking. Here's the dirt for your audience. When Annie was optioned by Columbia Pictures, they were paid $7 million. And for many years, that was the highest amount ever paid for a musical. And it was going to be produced as an old-fashioned movie musical like Hello, Dolly, and, And so they hired a guy named David Beagleman to be the producer. And all of the original creators were put on contract. Martin Charnin, the director, Tom Meehan, Charles Strauss, Peter Gennaro, the choreographer, me, we were all put on contract to start shooting. And about 3 months before we started shooting, David Beagleman was caught embezzling from Columbia Pictures. They fired him, and in order to distance themselves, the memo went out, whoever David hired was not allowed to work on the film. So we were all bought out of our contracts. Ray Stark was brought in as producer. John Huston was brought in as director, and it became a different movie. But and we all sat back and had to watch from afar.
And not treated very well. Martin was not treated very well.
No.
You know.
In fact, a little bit more of the inside story. He was given 2 tickets to the premiere in New York at Radio City. And he went out and bought 20 tickets. He got 20 scalped tickets. And he came back to the theater that night. We were running, told us the story, and he said, you know, we're going to put numbers in a hat, and 20 of you are going to go with me to the show, and 20 of you are going to go with me to the party. Because he wanted to be surrounded by his company. And, you know, so that's how we got to see, you know, I got to see the movie. I didn't get to go to the party, but he had to buy tickets off the street to get the original cast members in.
That's just crazy. I'm waiting to see if Sasha, because Sasha's watching. Hi, Sasha. I'm wondering if I'm waiting for her to chime in because I know she has very strong feelings about that stuff. And rightly so, because, you know, this was his show and changed a lot of lives.
Yep.
To people right here, right now, in particular.
Yep.
Even though I didn't continue per se, it had a profound impact on my life and, you know, in the directions that I went. And I think all for the good, you know. I think the kids were always treated really well, and animals were treated well, and the adults were great. So it was just a wonderful experience. I do have a question for the behavioral consultant side of you, and this is serious.
Yep.
We're in this quarantine now. People have been home for 6 weeks, maybe 7 weeks going on, maybe a little bit more. And we've been with our pets nonstop.
We talked about this, you and I, Roseanne.
We did. We talked about it. And I'm kind of worried about my dog's mental state when it's time for me to go back to work.
Doggy depression. Doggy depression is real.
Yeah.
Sure.
So what can we do for our pets?
I am recommending that everybody who has pets, well, the first thing they recommend is that in order to not get depressed, you have a routine. You know, you get up, you walk your dog, you have a routine and you stick with it, you know, so that you don't just get lost and sucked into the computer. So having a pet facilitates that because they have to go out, they need attention, they need to be fed. So, and it's important for your pet to not have that change as well. But what you need to include in that, anybody who's working and will go back to their old life, is that twice a day, at least for a half hour, you put your animal in another room and let them be alone. So that it's not constant 24 hours, but that they start realizing there are times when you're going to be there and there's time when you're not. Because if you don't do that, there'll be a lot of separation anxiety when people go back to what was their old life, because their animals won't understand why you're not there anymore.
Even if they bark and jump and go crazy, put them in another room.
Yep. Well, and again, they think the world has gotten better because we're all home.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Living your best life, for sure.
Yeah. And when it ends, they ain't going to be happy, for sure. But we have to prepare them for that. And, you know, eventually, if you keep that routine of twice a day separating them from you, they will just go to sleep, you know, and then it should fall back into the routine a little easier when we all go back to work.
Well, then I'm going to try that. I don't think Lola will like it, but you already told me that I have allowed her to dominate me, and so I deserve that.
Yes.
There's no doubt that Hank, my dog, so my daughter's home. She's been with us for 5 weeks, and this dog gets the ultimate attention from everybody.
Yeah.
And we had this conversation last week. I said, you know, a lot of dogs are going to be depressed, and I didn't realize how many people are out in the neighborhood now. Like you said, like it's become part of their routine where they're walking their dogs. I didn't know so many dogs we're in the town of Islip alone. It's been unbelievable. And I said, what happens when everybody goes back to work? And that's an unbelievable thing, is to put him in a room. I don't know if Hank's going to like that, but okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to do
I
it.
don't know if Lola will like it, but I'll try it if it means she won't, destroy my couch.
Well, here's the thing. If you don't start preparing them for it, they will destroy your couch. They will scratch the molding. They will ingest something and get seriously ill. But so you gotta, for their mental health, you gotta do it.
Yeah, definitely. I will definitely do it because I don't need any more issues with her.
I got one of my trained dogs here. Would you like to meet him?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Hold on a second. Let me get a cookie. You always have to have a reward.
Uh-oh.
Good boy. Good boy. So this is Rocco.
That's some bark you got, Rocco.
Hi, Rocco.
He was in a show called The Ferryman, which won the Tony Award for Best Play.
Okay.
But in all the spare time, I taught him how to bark. That's what animal trainers do, right?
That's what you do.
You're fun. Now, I thought all those bunnies were adopted. No, you have them?
Oh,
Uh,
give it away.
Now, who's that barking?
Okay, well, we'll bring out the real Rocco.
Rocco.
Rocco is a Pomeranian who is in the Broadway show Bullets Over Broadway.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Oh, hi.
Yeah. How you doing, bud? Did you
Now,
bark?
what did he have to do in Bullets Over Broadway?
He got carried a lot, but he had to run on stage in the middle of big numbers, big tap numbers. So, we needed dogs with some real courage. And this little guy is full of it, for sure. Hi, thanks.
Very cute.
Yeah.
Very cute.
So that's how you do it, Rosanne.
Which I know. I guess I didn't learn much, Bill.
Ooh, I'm in trouble too.
What is easier to train it? Bigger dogs or mutts or pure breeds like that, or are they all rescues, your dogs?
They're all rescues.
Mhm.
And when people ask me what my favorite breed to train is, a mutt, because when you think about dog breeds, man genetically engineered dogs to do one thing well, whether it's hunting or scent work or protection work. So if you get a bloodhound whose entire brain is wired for sniffing, and you want them to concentrate on something, they can't, because their nose overpowers all their thinking. So all the work we did in Christmas Story had to do with smelly food on either side of the stage. But mutts, what are mutts? Mutts are sort of the jack of all trades, because you have all those mixed genes in there. So they're good at a lot of things as opposed to really great at one. So they're the easiest to train, I believe, mentally. In terms of big dogs and small dogs, it's easier to train the big dogs so they don't have to keep bending down. You train a little Pomeranian like this, you got to bend down 100 times in a training session.
Well, I mean, so I have a couple of surprises for you, actually.
Okay.
But before I move on to the surprises, Chris, I know you had a few things you were really, really curious.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to introduce you to my little guy. This is Hank.
Hank.
My Frenchie. And when Hank goes for a walk, I know I'm talking about you. He pulls. He's a puller. And
Yeah.
I saw your little video clip, how to keep him close, but I cannot get this guy. Is there any way to break that habit? And he's 5 now, but when he's pulling so insane, I can't imagine it's a fun walk for him. It's definitely not a fun walk for my family because he's pulling so hard, and I just can't get him to calm down. He's so excited. What's your best advice?
You're screwed.
Make it as much.
Let's talk about nature versus nurture, when I evaluate every case. He is a French bulldogs. Bulldogs were, created as fighting dogs. So they're strong, they're stubborn, they're low to the ground, they're big chested. So genetically, he's a tank, you know. And then instead of when he was a baby, teaching him how to follow the rules, you let him get away with it all these years.
Yeah.
So imagine your most favorite activity, Chris, and your wife saying to you right now, you can't do that anymore. So he enjoys pulling, and so taking it away is going to be really hard.
Right.
What I would suggest though is they make no pull harnesses. Now, I'm not a fan of choke collars, but there are harnesses
with that. He has like almost like a harness around him, but he still pulls really, really easy.
No. Okay, there's a difference. The harness you have is probably like the harness they put on sled dogs, and it disperses the pulling over their body.
Yes, yep.
So you're encouraging him to pull by putting a harness on that doesn't restrict him. But the no pull harnesses have loops that go under their armpits, and when they pull, it restricts their legs. So you're not creating the resistance the dog is. When he pulls, he feels himself being constricted. So he begins to learn to listen to the tool. So they're humane. They're available at all the pet stores, and so that's what I would suggest for him at this point.
Yeah, we didn't like the choke collar. We tried it, and it just wasn't for us.
Yeah.
You're not going to retrain him, but you can get a tool which will allow him to train himself.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. I definitely need it.
Well, that's excellent. It's excellent advice. Sasha wanted me to have you talk about the story where Martin gave Sandy notes.
The funny thing was, before Annie, there had never been an animal who played a character in a play. And by that I mean, the shows prior to Annie had dogs that were props. They were carried on, they were walked on a leash. Shows like Anything Goes or Gypsy or, Camelot, even Camelot, the dog was a walk-on. And so here Tom Ian writes the script where the dog has to move the action of the play. Nobody tells me that you can't train a dog to do that. Nobody tells Martin Charnin, the director. And we found this extraordinary dog, and he would listen so well that Martin started treating him like the other actors. There was one cross in the play where Sandy was supposed to walk. He's lost Annie, and he's looking through the streets of New York for her. And he walked center stage and sat, and then looked around, and then would leave. And in the beginning, we would get notes like, Sandy, slow down your exit in NYC. Okay, I mean, or don't move so fast going to Annie. I mean, but because he was like one of the actors, and I didn't think that was strange until I started working with other animals and realizing that directors don't normally give notes to animals. But
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I did prepare a little something that I want to share with you.
Okay.
Literally. We don't have a lot of pictures together, Bill.
No, we don't.
We don't. But I did manage to find a couple.
Look at that.
Wow.
Okay. Now you remember where that was?
Not at all.
That was at the annual White House Easter egg.
Oh, no.
Holy cow.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And
Yep.
that's the original Sandy.
That's the original Sandy. And look at this right here.
Wow,
Yeah.
Bill, that's
Wow.
a lot of hair you got going on there, pal.
Oh, yeah.
That's fantastic.
I found this one. That's you on the trampoline at my house in Lindenhurst. And I believe that's Sarah Jessica Parker's mom.
Mother. Holy.
Right?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
I had a picture of me and Sarah, and it's got to be in a box somewhere. I could not find it. And the last picture is again in my house in Lindenhurst, sitting in the reclining chair in what I believe was my basement. My mother must have had a bunch of people over, and you were just chilling in the basement.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's an example of the community and family this show created, not just within the companies, but your own company, but we all became part of this legacy. So, if you were an Annie or an orphan, or any cast member, we'd have parties at our homes. We would, go to each other's activities. In fact, Rosanne was a bridesmaid in my first wedding.
I was.
Wow.
With the other Annies.
Yep.
Yes.
Wow. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Bro, you didn't tell me that.
I didn't tell you that? Well, I was. It was great. So I do have one more surprise for you.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
You got to give it a minute.
Mm-hmm.
There she is.
Who is it? Now I got to put my glasses on because it's a small screen.
It's Judy and my sister Amy.
Come on. How are you guys?
Hi.
Hi.
Bill. How are you?
You've gone red.
Oh, well, it's
Yeah.
not really,
Reddish
but
brown.
a girl's got to keep things interesting. What could I say? No,
You were always interesting. Are you kidding?
well, I try to be.
And now
You scarred me for life, Bill. You scarred me.
Oh, come on.
No, you did. You did. The last time I saw you, I was wearing a stunning scarf that I absolutely loved. And you told me, how dare you wear an animal? You said it was rabbit. And all along, I thought it was synthetic. I loved that scarf. I loved that
never
scarf.
wore it
I
again.
never wore it again. Never. I said, no, Billy said it was an animal. I was being, cruel and everything else. And I had a fur coat too, which I kind of never wore again. It's
Wow.
hanging in the closet. Would never put it on.
But I did it out of love.
Of
In
course.
fact,
Of course. You were unrelenting.
When you guys were on tour, I remember you liked a certain type of potato chips that you could only get in New York. And I would give them to you every time I came out to see you.
Well, I switched. I'm a Lay's person now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just because you're so old, they don't make those other chips anymore. That's why.
Thank you. Wait a minute. I have Oliver, he's
They with the dogs. They're driving me nuts with this dog.
Oliver Dave.
Bill, I have your next big thing right here, Billy.
Where?
This is the next big thing for you.
Okay, please.
No,
Show.
I can't get him to listen to me right now. There he is.
Here, Oliver. Why, I have to ask you. Well, Amy has this whole scenario in her head about when he was found in a park in North Carolina.
Yep.
And whenever she makes something that might create smoke or the fireplace is on or whatever, he cowers, he shakes, he doesn't want to come in the house. She thinks that he was a victim in a fire in the house and he lost his whole family and he was roaming around.
Oh my God.
North Carolina. But anyway,
He
why,
was like Little Orphan Annie.
Mhm.
so why does he shake and cower whenever he smells smoke?
Well, believe it or not, dogs get traumatized like humans. And events can deeply affect them for the rest of their life, whether it's violence, hurricanes, events like fire. And I think Amy is on the right track. There was something about.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bill. Could you say that again a little louder? Could you repeat that for me?
I think Amy is on the right track
Oh, I'm on
with
the
the scenario.
Thank you.
That he was involved in some sort of fire, and whether it tore him away from his family or it didn't scar him, but it was obviously something traumatic. And just like people, it's hard to get over.
Oh, he's so pathetic. It's so heartbreaking when he does that. I can't stand it. I just want to scoop him up because
The bad news is, Amy, he'll never be in showbiz
The story of my life, Billy.
Typecasting. His eyes are too dark. You can't see his eyes on camera.
But doesn't
Black
that make
dogs
him
don't work.
mysterious?
What?
Does it make him mysterious?
No.
Aw.
But you know who does have
Oh,
light eyes?
no.
Oh, you don't want that.
Right
We're
here,
gonna
she's
go to that,
got light eyes.
Yeah.
She photographs well, Roseanne. She really
So
does.
now we've all had our animals
But
on,
anyway,
and we have bored Billy with our animals, but
I got to ask Bill a current event question. And Bill,
Okay.
I probably get asked this a lot. Can your dog get the COVID-19 bug?
Yes. I read recently there was a case of a dog getting it.
mhm.
oh,
the-
really?
Yeah.
And
I
the
had heard that
tiger
yesterday, and I was said I got to ask that question because you worry about your animals like they're part of your family. So, wow.
The first was the tiger at the Bronx Zoo,
Zoo,
Mhm.
yeah.
and a domestic cat about 3 weeks ago, and recently a dog.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's
We-
not
well,
something, I would worry so much about an animal getting that, but I guess it affects them a little differently.
But
But-
animals can't carry it very easily. So you should keep social distance away from animals that are not yours.
Right.
As well.
All right, we have to
Yeah.
social
Third
distance
thing
the
to think
animals
about.
now.
Friggin' time. Imagine that.
Mhm.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So what is the plan now for you, Bill, after this is over? Do you have things in the works?
Well, first selfish plug is
ahead.
back in 2008, I wrote a book called Broadway Tales, which
Oh.
was an autobiography. Every chapter is a Broadway show that I worked on in the rescue story. They asked me to update it in 2013, and they asked me to update it again. So this is the final. It comes out in June. I'll be doing some book signings.
Oh, very exciting.
Yep.
You
So-
signed mine, Bill.
Mhm.
Do you remember what you wrote?
Probably something we can't say on the air.
No, you were very nice. You wrote, "To my favorite Annie ever, what memories we have. Love always, Bill Berloni."
There you go.
You know what else, Bill?
What?
Your favorite Annie? She wasn't in the book.
You went on Broadway. You didn't have a tail. So on both.
I'm just teasing you. It was funny though.
Also in the a J-Lo film is coming out that we worked on called "Marry Me" with
You say Jane.
Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson, and I
Oh.
trained the dog that played Owen Wilson's dog.
Wow.
Be coming out later in the summer. Well, who knows what release dates
Maybe.
will be now.
Right.
I've been asked to train a dog for a major motion picture based on a book called The Friend, which was a bestseller 2 summers ago about a woman in New York who lives alone, and her friend dies and she inherits his Great Dane. And we have to find a home for this dog, and ends up falling in love with it, and it changes her life. So
Wow.
it's a script that has a dog role that I haven't seen in many, many years. So I'm very excited about that. We're in pre-production for that. And I've had 5 or 6 television series running as well. And trying to get our musical Because of Winn-Dixie to Broadway.
And that should definitely be on Broadway. That's such a great show. And you had a Super Bowl commercial.
Oh my gosh, I got to ask you about this. This is amazing. Bill, do you know how many views that Super Bowl commercial has had?
No, I'm not a big sports guy.
But I mean, just views. It's so big. You guys know? Do you want to hazard a guess, Judy? You want to guess how many views that one commercial
That's
has
the one
had?
with the little puppy, the Budweiser one? Is that the one you're talking about?
No, the Smart
Hot Talk.
Smart
Smart Talk.
Yeah.
Smart Talk.
You ready?
Yeah.
43.5 million views.
Wow. Hmm.
That might be your most famous work. And and the dog was in it for what? A nanosecond, right?
Hang on a second.
You
Nanosecond.
like doing commercials, film, or or theater? What's your favorite out of all that?
My favorite is obviously theater. It's
Yeah.
I believe it's a much more collaborative, live detailed art form that you get to replicate every night. In filming, you get sort of ingenious and you get the shot and you move on.
Well-
So from a work perspective, it's a lot easier, but I don't get the same joy
Right.
because there's no audience reaction. And so
But-
yeah, I'm a theater guy through and through.
Can I ask a question, Bill?
Sure.
When you like working on a movie, for instance, the one you just did with Owen Wilson, right? Owen Wilson, yeah. Is it all fragmented, or when the dog is supposedly in front of him doing something with him, is the dog really there, or are you training him to do something and then they edit it together? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yes. It's a little bit of both, Judy,
Mhm.
because if there's a behavior that they need the dog to react to the actor, then we have to have rehearsal. And rehearsal is not a big thing in films.
Yeah, I know.
So, I will train the behaviors. And sometimes it'll be what they call a two shot, where you'll see the person's face saying sit, and then you'll cut to the dog sitting, and I'm actually the one making him do it.
Right.
Owen, major dog lover. And his character's dog, they wanted the slowest, oldest bulldog that you could find. So I happened to have that, and Owen was so great with our old bulldog and carried him around and let him slobber on him. And so there wasn't a lot of training on that, except, he had to stay, but he had to walk on a leash. Oh, he had to walk slowly. We had to teach the dog to walk slowly. So it varies. Like when we did, I didn't work on the Annie movie, the first one. I did not work on the Disney Annie movie, but I did train the Sandy for the recent one a few years ago with Quvenzhané Wallace. And they gave me rehearsal with her. So it was great to get back to creating a dog character with an actress on film. So, but those are the exceptions.
Do a
I
good
agree with
job
you.
no matter what.
I think in theater, the beauty of the animal coming on the stage, I don't think people ever get tired of that. I think they loved when there's an animal in a show, it's always very exciting. And especially that scene with Sandy, when he comes out and he sits in the center of the stage and looks around and leaves, you got to do a similar thing with the dog from the Crucible.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yep.
Which wasn't a real wolf.
Wasn't a real wolf. Right. I think it was in 2016. Famous director named Ivo van Hove did a new version of that. What film was it? Which one was it? I can't remember. Crucible. That's how much I remember it. And he wrote a wolf in. And here's the inside story on that. So this was the director who gets everything he wants. So the producers called me and said, Bill, Ivo wants a wolf. We don't want a wolf. So give us a price that is so high that we could tell him we can't afford it. So I quoted them this outrageous price. And a month later, they called and said, okay, give us the wolf. And I was like, what? More money on that show than any other Broadway show I've worked on, because they wanted me to lose it. And we found a dog that looks like a wolf called the Tamaskin. We borrowed it from the owners, and I trained it to do this terrifying cross in the stage, where it had to come out center stage and look at the audience as if it was going to attack them and then run off. So, but yeah, I stole from myself, Rosanne.
You did?
That was the NYCQ, except instead of looking left or right, he had to look out over the audience. And I never told him that. So
that sounds so God, I'm so happy that you are here and we're doing this, and it's so great to see you. And I wanted my mother and my sister to get a chance to see you too, because it's been too long, and when this quarantine is over, we're gonna have a real face-to-face.
no,
Definitely.
well, you haven't changed.
Meet Oliver Dave in person, Billy.
Oh
Look at that face.
look!
Dog, you mean the dog, right?
Yeah, the dog, Mom, the dog.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Oh, look at that one.
Yeah, very.
wow, that's
Yep.
fun.
You still look the same.
A little worse for the wear, but it's okay.
Mhm.
All right, so Mom,
Yeah.
Amy, say bye-bye. We have to do our last
Oh.
segment.
Oh, we're going.
Oh,
Okay.
she's
All
kicked
right.
me out
Do you
before.
want to stay? Do you want to stay?
No.
No, we know when we're not wanted.
No, you're wanted. Oh my God. I'm sorry I say. We have
Puppies, sons
Stop
of bitches.
Stop it.
The arguments have not changed in 45 years.
no,
Say-
no, they haven't. They haven't. They've
Yeah.
gotten worse actually.
Yeah.
So Chris,
Anyway,
I'm
well,
gonna
I'll sign off. I'll sign off. It was
Signing
wonderful seeing you.
Love you
All
guys.
right.
Well,
Good to see
and I
you.
hope to see you
Yeah.
before another 10 years.
Yes, please.
All right. Well, take
thanks for
care.
coming on, guys.
You're welcome.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Bill.
Bye.
Bye, Chris.
Bye. They're awesome.
Mhm.
Oh
All
my
right, so
goodness.
Bill, we just do a little segment, because she was Pepper in the movie. So we do a thing, Pepper gets peppered, but I put a little twist on it. This is a true and false about your life. So you're gonna know whether it's true or false. They're
I
pretty-
have to answer.
we're gonna ask Pepper. She's gonna get peppered now. So this is either gonna be truly Berloni or phony baloney. That's how she's
Okay.
gonna answer. You ready for the first one? Bill is the only animal trainer to be honored with a Tony Award, Roseanne.
Truly Berloni.
That is truly Berloni.
Yes,
Let's
You mean this?
there and
it is.
you
Yeah.
ask, you shall see. That is awesome.
Wow,
So that was
that's amazing.
Bill. That had to be a big night to recognize for all the hard work that you put in, because nobody even understands that. People just go to the show and they don't know how much work that you put in to have, the wolf sit there and stare out into the audience when that goes up against everything that you taught yourself to do. So
Yeah.
how did you react to that?
It was funny. By then I had done 20 Broadway shows, and I would see people win Tony Awards for one show, and I'm like, nobody cares about these animals. And so the Tony Awards do have a special category for talented people who are, they can't be nominated, press agents, producers, and so when they decided to give me one of those Tony honors, I was deeply moved. It just meant that the community recognized what I've been doing. So
Yeah, awesome.
And
right.
well-deserved honor.
Yeah. All right, you ready? Roseanne,
Okay.
Bill is an only child.
God.
Dun,
Truly
dun,
Berloni?
dun.
5 seconds, Roseanne.
I said truly Berloni?
That is true. Bill, you're an only child.
Yes.
So growing up on the farm, or wherever you were you around animals a lot? I know you talked about the collie and the
Yeah.
beagle, but did you have multiple animals or?
I had a collie, a cat, and a rabbit, and they were, when I was under 5 years old, my constant companions. So they were my brothers and sisters.
There you go.
And learning how to read them is what gave me the skill to do what I do now.
All right.
I think you were destined for it, Billy.
It was, for sure. I mean, listen.
Absolutely.
All right, you ready, Roseanne?
I'm ready.
Bill secretly is not a fan of cats.
Phony Baloney.
Well, it depends, because I wasn't really. Are you fond of cats?
No.
See? And I was just talking about the movie. Nobody was fond about that. That's terrible.
All these gray hairs come from training cats.
I'm
I
sure.
think well, that leads me to a good question I had. What is the hardest thing to train that you've run into? What's the hardest animal? Like, oh man, this is taking me forever.
Anything that's not a dog, because no other species has any reason to listen to man. So
Right.
whether it's a cat or a bunny or a sheep or a cow, they just want to hurt you and run away. So,
Or a
and-
goose.
Yeah.
Goose. Yep. We trained a goose for the ferryman, the show the bunny was in, and we got them when they were goslings, when they were 2 days old, and made them think we were their parents. It's the only way they let us carry them around.
And where are they now?
Out in my backyard.
That's very cool.
That's all.
I
So
think
how How many animals do you have now, Bill? Just for people to understand the gravity of the amount of animals you have.
We're about at 40, 28 dogs, 3 cats,
Wow.
2 horses, 2 pigs, a donkey, 2 geese, a rabbit, and a macaw. So.
Wow,
Unbelievable.
that's incredible.
All right, Rosie, I got two questions. You're doing good so far. You want to ask me a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, ask your question.
No, go ahead. Ask the question.
I was just curious, how many animal trainers or handlers do you have? Do you have them all the time, or now do you just get somebody to travel with a show, or because you're not at Broadway every night with an animal?
We have about 8 trainers right now who work with us, and some of them have been with me for 20 years. So I can trust them to go and set up things, when I'm not there. So I'm very lucky, and they've become like family to us.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I was just curious about that. I didn't know how many you had. Go ahead, Mr. Grando.
All right. 2 more, Ro.
All right.
Who considers himself a dog listener and not a dog whisperer?
I would say that is truly Berloni.
That is correct. Right?
Wow, you're doing great.
This is like 4 for 4.
I know.
All right.
Oh,
Last one. You ready?
okay.
You ready for this one? Bill trained the python named Banana for the Britney Spears performance at the MTV Video Music Awards in 2001.
I'm going to have to say that's truly Berloni. It's phony
Well,
baloney.
Let's find out. That's phony baloney. Sorry. That is
Yeah.
That's not true. Because I got to imagine, are there snake trainers? There got to be snake trainers, right, Bill?
Yeah.
Have you ever worked with a snake?
Yes. Do we have time for a funny story?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Snake story. So when Annie opened, it was so popular. The kids and Dorothy Loudon and Sandy were photographed for Vogue magazine by the famous photographer Richard Avedon. And again, I'm all of 20 years old. I bring Sandy there, and he must have saw something in the way that I handled the dog, and he took me aside. He said, I have an idea for a picture with a snake. Can you get a snake for me? Now, I'm thinking this is a world famous photographer. Yes, of course I can get you a snake. No problem. Just give me a call. So about a month later, he calls. He goes, yes, I'd like a boa constrictor. And I said, great. And I hung up, and I called my friend who worked at the ASPCA, did exotic animals. I said, I need a boa, for this shoot. And she said, there's this guy in Brooklyn who has a boa. He's really good. Boa's friendly, hand tame. I said, great. So I charged $250 for the shoot for 2 hours. And I gave 125 of it to the guy. So I figured this is easy money, right? Stand there. So we go to the shoot that day, and he comes in, and he's a hippie. He's got long hair, greasy. He's got a beard, and he's got a cooler, because snakes have to be kept cool so it slows them down and they don't move. And the cooler was dirty. And Richard Avedon comes out with this young model in a bathrobe, and it's Natasha Kinski.
Yeah, famous photo.
Oh my God, really?
Yes.
Famous photo. I know the one, exact.
And she whispers something into his ear, and he comes over to me, he goes, Bill, Natasha's feeling a little uneasy with the snake handler. Can you handle the snake now? I'm thinking, I've never touched a snake. I'm afraid of snakes. Do I admit that and ruin my career, or do I say, yes, no problem? I say, yes, no problem. So I go over to the cooler. He opens it up. He goes, yeah, here. And he pulls the thing out and he puts it in my hand, and I just froze. It was heavy. It was cold. I was afraid it was going to eat me. As terrified as I was, I turned around, and there was this naked woman. Now, I had never seen many naked women in daylight in public places. And he said, just drape it over her breasts and between her legs. And I'm like, I didn't know which I was more afraid of, the snake or touching her private parts. So putting it over there, I it and run. And he starts shooting. And girl is beautiful. And then they warmed up and started to move. Well, after an hour of this, I was like picking up the snake. Okay, spread your legs. Here, put it there. And I was like,
You became a snake whisperer.
yes, but that moment of snake naked woman. Oh no! What did I get?
All for the price of $250.
$50.
Yeah,
Yep.
if you know that, you could have charged a little more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that could have
and
been way
now-
more money.
That
And who
became
knew that photo took off? That became a world famous photo.
Yep. And so I've done.
You said the name, I knew.
Yep.
Well, you know what, Billy, you've had an amazing career, and I can't see it stopping. I can't see you not continuing ever, because I know that it comes from a place of genuine love for these animals, and you love what you do, and it's evident in everything. Who you see is, who you are. You are a genuine, wonderful person. And I so appreciate you coming on. Brace yourself. I really do. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And and the animals have introduced me to both amazing people, wonderful people, beautiful people, and people that I just love. And I've had so many wonderful friends like you that it doesn't matter whether it's 40 years ago or today. I'll always be there for you.
And can I tell you, that is so true, Chris, because when my Sandy Moose passed away, I probably hadn't spoken to you for many years, and you tracked me down. He tracked me down. He called me just to let me know.
Wow.
Yep. It's like a family.
That's a bond you guys have. And,
that's who he is. That's who he is. And all your Annies and all your orphans, they're all watching tonight. They're all chiming in. And so your daughter can show you later on Facebook, everybody who made comments. Sasha's been watching. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I look forward to seeing you in person.
Yes, I can't wait to come to see your guys' acts.
Oh, I can't wait. That'll be great.
Yeah, I was going to come to that one, and then everything got canceled.
Yep, hopefully comedy makes a comeback.
Soon enough, we'll be back. Let's hope.
You are. Thank you, guys. I'm so glad you're
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, have a good night.
Give my love to Dorothy and your daughter.
I will.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, well, come on. There it is.
Bill Berloni, man.
That's Bill Berloni. That's a big deal. I don't know if it
Award-winning theatrical animal trainer.
Yes, who actually figured out how to become this really just a legend in the theater to be able to do that. And everybody knows him. And if you want somebody, that's the guy you go to. I don't know if there's any other competition out there. I'm sure there's some other trainers and stuff, but not with the success and the run. And, if you just, honestly, if you go on to his website, he didn't plug the website, and we should have done that. I think it's American.
It's William Berloni Theatrical Animals.
Theatrical Animals. And if you click on just his credits of the films he does, the commercials he does, the tips that he gives and all that, I bet you he would probably say he's probably most proud of is getting these dogs out of these shelters adopted and taken care of with other families. And, sometimes you want to ask that question. I didn't ask him that question, and I bet you he would say that. It's truly an outstanding resume he has. It's just crazy.
Oh my God. And I agree with you. I think that would be the number one thing, growing up, as he said, being an animal lover and being around animals. I really do think he would say that the rescuing of the animals is, and while Lola wasn't technically a rescue, I did get her from crazy people, so I feel like I rescued her. But I can tell you, when I was doing the film, I was very troubled by the way the dogs were treated. They were kept in cages. They were not clean. I mean, Sandy had a dressing room. The dogs were treated.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And what an amazing story that he rescued Sandy the day before, he was going to be euthanized. That's like unbelievable. Like what, stroke of luck. And then to have to go out and figure out how to get $4 more to save that. I mean, anybody.
I know.
Back in the day when, you're a student and you're struggling, you want to make it to that big screen, you want to do it. And the next thing you know, in a year, he did that in a year. He became like, now you're with Richard Burton on screen.
The guy. Yep. He's the guy.
Yeah.
So that was fun. And it was nice to see so many people from Annie. Annie passed. Martin Charnin's daughter, Sasha Charnin Morrison, has been watching.
Yep.
And thank you for watching.
Commented, and Cynthia Moser said, yes, theatrical animals. Yes, thank you for that. You got to give him a plug on that too.
And he's going to have a book signing, which is exciting. So, it was great to see.
You look like you're getting a little verklempt there.
I got a little teary talking about moose. Talking about my moose. I did. Don't bring it up anymore.
I know, right? Of course.
Yeah, it was, that's the kind of relationships that he cultivated with people and with the animals, and then you and the animals. So he called me the night that he had to put Moose down.
Oh man.
So you made me cry. Thanks a lot. You jerk.
All right. You wanted to be dewy, now you're swampy.
Now I'm swamp face. I have like wet eyes. So, all right. So this is going to be on YouTube.
Yep.
I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel. So please like and subscribe. I get so excited when I see
some viewers watch,
likes and new subscribers and everything.
You get all these cool guests, right, Raul? These are all like really cool guests.
Yes.
Come on, you open my world. I the theatrical world. I got choreographers. We got Rock and Roll Pete.
I know you're really, and you're good. You're good.
I don't know, man. So I did a lot of watching of William Berloni stuff, and I got to tell you, I was amazed when you brought up his name, and then you kind of told me the background, and then all the stuff he did. I was like, wow, this guy is just insanely talented, and you don't even think about that's something you don't even think about.
Yeah, and
until Hank's dragging me down, Ocean Avenue, and I can't keep going. And he just broke my heart. Like, I'm basically doomed. He said, it's over.
Yeah. He already told me I should just give it up, that Lola's going to rule the roost until the day she dies. So it is what it is. So before we sign off, I have nothing to plug because we're still stuck in the house. Although I have become addicted to TikTok.
Yes, you have.
I watch it constantly.
Yeah.
And I've even made some TikTok videos.
Yes, I've seen them. And Michelle's addicted to TikTok. Everybody likes this stuff now.
It's hilarious. Some
of them are very funny. You know what I don't like about the TikTok, and this is my little pet peeve. Like, if you give me a like, you get part 2. What is that? Like, what is that? I don't want to just throw you a random like to see the end of it.
That's not true. I've seen part 2s of plenty of things. You don't have to like it.
All right.
They're just trying to get likes.
I don't want to know the ending.
They're just trying to get likes. It's very annoying. So, okay. So our show next week is going to be a great show too.
Okay, bring it on.
Mark Zapula. He's an author. He's from Massachusetts, I believe Boston, Massachusetts. He wrote the book, The Last Longshoreman. And he's written other books as well. And I think the last time I spoke to him, they were talking about possibly making this into a movie. So we're going to have Mark here and we're going to interview him next week.
Yeah. You're forcing me to read. I got to read, don't I?
You have to read 300 pages. Get going. And
books on audio.
What?
Books on audio, 100%.
That's it.
The problem is you don't drive anywhere anymore. Where are you going to listen to it? You used to be able to listen in a car. Now you don't go anywhere. You don't drive.
Listen to it at the office when you're there.
Work smirk.
So, all right. So great show. Thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate it. I hope that you enjoyed. Billy was a great guest.
Yeah,
and Chris, you do awesome. Thank you so much.
You were awesome. I love the banter, and you can tell how close you guys are. And that's really something else, that you can keep a relationship like that for 40 years. And that's what all that stuff is about. At the end of the day, to be able to have that connection is pretty awesome. So,
It is awesome.
cheers to that. We need
Cheers
cheers
to that.
Cheers.
And we got to see Judy.
Yes, I got to see Judy. Judy and I need to have a conversation. She should be on, we should have a segment for her, for sure.
We are. Oh, you're right. We should.
I'm going to
All right.
write.
Let's sign off and we'll talk about it in our post-production meeting. Thank you,
Goodbye.
everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks.